Well, welcome back to another sermon conversation where, again, we're discussing Pastor Rob's sermon on undeserved grace. It was all about Jonah, so I encourage you to watch that message if you haven't. But we're going to talk about it now. Jonah, the belly of the whale, Nineveh, wicked people, and lots of God's grace. So it's good. It's a great sermon. And, there's so much imagery in there. And as I was sharing with you just a few minutes ago, Jewish culture, when they approach the Bible and all the figurative language, they don't make that take a back seat to the facts that are going on. They actually take all the allegory and the figurative language and they say, no, that's primary and everything else is secondary. So there's so much information here. One of the things that popped out right away to me is that when God called Jonah, and Jonah said, no, I'm not going to go to Nineveh, he actually still gets on a boat and he goes a different direction. But even before the storm comes and everyone's praying to their gods, he's out in the middle of the sea. And if we look at Jewish culture, the idea of the sea is the same idea of the abyss. It's the devil's lair, the lair of Satan. And that's where Jonah finds himself, is that even the moment that he decides to disobey God, he finds himself hovering over the abyss.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
I like the idea. So the message kind of came out of the thought of when we think about it, as you just mentioned, like just the story, the Sunday school story. We know it, seen the videos, seen the books, but let's just peel a layer off of that and really look at it the way it was written, the truth it was trying to communicate. And right in the midst of some hard teaching, again, we find this just, it's a fun story. But there's just so much in there. So I love the idea that when we think about Jonah as well, like when we think about undeserved grace and undeserved favor, well, I mean, Nineveh, like bad places that we think about, those people are bad, that area's bad, they don't deserve it. But God is like, you know what, actually you don't deserve it either. There's times when you're going the wrong way. And I love that thought as Jonah was completely going the wrong way, and God would always say to us, challenge us in his word, like, be hot or be cold. Like, what are you doing? Be one or the other. Don't be warm. Like, you're either on fire, you're following my ways, or you're going the opposite way, and there's no middle ground. And I really love the black and whiteness of the gospel for that reason, because we find Jonah just like all crying like a little baby, and we've all done these moments, right? We're just depressed and things aren't going our way, and God says, if you would open your eyes and realize that the world is going the wrong way and they need help and they're asking for help, would you come and pray for me? How often do we see that for people in our lives come to us, go, I'm sick, or my child's sick, or I've been injured, or I've lost my job. Could you pray for me? Because they know we're Christians. But prior to that, they're just warm. They're like, we're good. We're okay. I've got, look at my big house and my fancy car. I don't need God. But when there's the storm, now I'm like, whoa, now you got my attention. I actually need something from the Lord. So,
I remember I heard this testimony from this guy once. He actually died, and when he died, he immediately went into this vision of all of these people walking down this wide road off a cliff into hell. And he saw what they were doing, and he's trying to stop them. He's like, no, don't go that way, and all that. And then eventually, after he was doing that for a while, God spoke to him and said, if I send you back, will you prevent them from going to hell? Will you speak to these people? And so eventually God did send him back, and that's what he spent the rest of his life doing. I think he was some sort of a salesman before that, and then after that, the rest of his life was in ministry. And I see that here as we look at Jonah's life. God's called him to step in front of the gates to hell and turn them back the other way. But his immediate reaction to God's call is, what great ministry do you have for me? I don't want that ugly thing. I don't want to go to the dark places, the wicked places in the world. Give me that promotion, God. And God's like, I am promoting you, because you have my power and authority to see my harvest. But you got to go to the dark places for it. And so I wonder, for us, are there times where we're unwilling to go to the dark places when God has already given us all of his power, all of his authority to go and see victory, to see harvest, and yet there's something in that dark place that we're like, no, I don't want to go to those people or that place. And yet, can we see that in our city, that revival is one step of obedience?
Yeah, it's so good. It just refers back to that thought about being lukewarm again, is that as Christians, are we just kind of comfortable, we're satisfied, like, this is my talent, this is my gift, this is my wheelhouse, this is where I play in, and everything else is uncomfortable for me. And God is saying, you have every ability to do whatever I've called you to do, whether you think you're strong on it or you think you're weak at it. God's saying, I have this. Just be obedient, right? That's all I'm asking you. Be obedient, and I've got the rest.
Yeah.
All pedestals, all names, all labels that we have for ourselves are obsolete in God's presence. God is just like, just please go out. You see all the need, just go, and I will take care of the rest.
Good,
and so we just need to be obedient. So
Amen.
easy to preach, easy to talk about.
Totally. I know, hard to live, but when we recognize that we've been given this gift, we have to give it away. That's really the gift of grace is something that's just we keep on sharing, and in that there's so much joy. And, and as we look at the life of Jonah here, the reason that at the end of his life that he didn't have joy, or at the end of the story that he didn't have joy, is because he didn't want to give away that gift. And sometimes when we see Christians who just, they're discontent in life, there's no peace inside their heart, they're lacking joy, it's because they're not giving away that gift of salvation to others that they've received. And so we got to challenge ourselves with that. God doesn't need to take us to the abyss.
That's right.
to shake us up.
Been there enough times.
Yeah. Good.
Just as we were preparing and I was just closing a few doors, I was reminded this morning, just before we recorded this video, I had an agenda. So I'm a kind of sticky note guy. I got my list of things. We got to record this message today. I've got to make this phone call today. And I phoned down to our guy Alex there at Johnson Meyer Insurance, and he it's that renewal time for our church to get our insurance in line. So I just phoned there. I had an agenda for him. I said, I have a question for you. So he answered my question, and he just said, because I've had a relationship with him for years and years, he just said, Pastor Rob, I just want to ask you something. I said, there's some things going on in my life I'm really wrestling through, and could you just pray for me? And just, if you think of me, would you pray for me? And so I just was like completely, it just felt like I just hit an e-brake on my life. Like, I have an agenda, I have a purpose. I'm going through my motions, and God was like, got my attention. And I was like, okay, I'm all in. And I just said, Alex, I'm going to pray for you right this moment. I'm not waiting. I'm not going to, if I think about you in days to come, like right now, I'm just going to pray in Jesus' name. Like in our lives as well, as we just live, we got to get groceries, we've got to get diapers, we've got to get our van fixed. And like, do we have our eyes open to what God is doing each and every moment? Not just like, like I'll give God, 1 day a week, or I'll give God 10% of anything. Like, I want to give God like everything. And like, let him just, live my day out. So when I have an agenda, like I would almost put on your sticky note, however you do our planning, like God moments, like where's the divine moments? Where's the divine purposes? Why did God create you for this moment today? Not even like long term, like today, each and every day. Let's just be like that. I don't want to be like Jonah, and I sometimes do that, and please don't agree and say amen to that. But you just kind of get caught up in my own emotion and my own stuff, and God's like, please shake out of that. Just be obedient, and so important. So
that's good. Let's leave you guys out there with that challenge today, not just this week, but today. Look for the divine appointments. Be available to be used by God in the moments that you're in with the people around you. Pray for those around you. Go in the power and authority that God has already assigned to you.
Absolutely.
All right, God bless you, and thanks for joining us with this conversation. And again, I remind you, tomorrow on Thursday at noon, please pray and fast with us so that we can walk in the power and authority of God. God bless.
Appreciate it.